The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
We love the earth.
Good day, tokers and tokettes. It is Monday, November 5th, 2012, and it's got to be Election Day tomorrow, and I am so excited I can't even speak straight. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Russ Belville Show, your source for the live election results coming up tomorrow night. We start at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to run all the way till we get the last result in from the 8 different states that are voting on various marijuana measures. We've got medical marijuana in Massachusetts and Arkansas. We got a medical marijuana repeal referendum in Montana. We got marijuana legalization in Washington, Colorado, and Oregon. We got 3 strikes reform in California. We've got various city measures for medical marijuana in Michigan and in California. And we've got live reporters at all of those states in all of the campaign headquarter party locations. We'll be bringing you the live updates tomorrow right here at radicalruss.com, theweedblog.com, hailmaryjane.com, pot.tv, all sorts of great websites out there that are participating in Marijuana Election Night 2012. The hashtag is MJVote, and make sure you follow us at RadicalRuss and at RBShow420 for all the latest details. All sorts of stuff coming up on the show today. Let's welcome everybody here hanging out in the studio. We've got Brian the Red over here on mic number 2. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing just fine and cannot wait to see the results tomorrow. We're seriously less than 24 hours away.
Yeah, we're getting there. The polls close on the East Coast at 5 o'clock our time, so we'll start getting some results in that early. Brian here will be engineering the live election results tomorrow right here from Rolla J Studios. I'll be up in Seattle, Washington with the I-502 campaign, New Approach Washington, bringing you coverage from there. Also, we welcome from our virtual studio in beautiful Astoria, Oregon, our news director, Carrie Gallagher. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Oh.
Hi, Russ.
She's still there.
I still want to say hi to you.
Throwing headphones on.
I still wanted to say hi to you. We've got some news to bring today. I'm going to be doing the headline news today. Carrie has just been flying around because you're headed out to Colorado to cover our election coverage with the Amendment 64 campaign, right?
That's right. I just got off a 12-hour shift, and I am packing my bags and heading east.
All right, Carrie, you get to that, and we'll have you on the show tomorrow bringing us what could be coverage from the first state, time zone-wise, to legalize marijuana. Isn't that exciting?
I know. I'm so excited that I got to cover Denver. Thank you so much for sending me on this assignment, Russ. I can't wait to bring you the great news.
All right. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Also coming up on the show, we've got our regularly scheduled Listen to Your Mother segment, and that's when we team up with Moms for Marijuana, Normal Women's Alliance, and other women's groups associated to end marijuana prohibition. Today, we are speaking with Lisa Calvin, a.k.a. Lively Libra from our chat room, and a concerned citizen in the state of Iowa looking westward for some hope. And we'll talk about these legalization ballots coming up here and what she thinks of them. And then at the end, we got time for a radical rant. I'll tell you the top 5 excuses pot smokers are using to vote against legalization and why they're nonsense.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stuff.
Take marijuana off of the streets, put it in a store. We can make it harder for the teens to buy. Sell it like a bottle of wine. Jobs for our people, money for schools. Who could ask for more? Strict regulation, fund education. Yes, on 64.
And blue blasten gurgen, fuffen der blasten schnurb norben. Cannabinoids and health.
Cannabinoids.
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 Why am I having trouble saying that?
Cannabinoids.
Jeez.
Cannabinoids.
What a gift.
Flame on if you can. You're looking for that dope weed. Fire it up. Flame on if you can. You're looking for that dope weed. Bully boy's a man. Flame on if you can. You're looking for that dope weed. Flame on, here's a lighter. Every burn bug.
Now it's time for your 420 headline news with Carrie Gallagher. She's got the day off today. I'm Russ Belville with the news. We have news of Rudy Reyes, who is a medical marijuana patient turned politician, writing from Alan St. Pierre, executive director of NORML. Rudy Reyes is we met him a number of years ago at a NORML-related event in California, where unfortunately, in helping other people to escape the 2003 Cedars wildfire, he suffered third-degree burns over most of his body. He didn't respond well to the conventional medications when he found that applying a topical solution made from cannabis worked quite well. We'll be paying close attention tomorrow night to the election results from California, where an otherwise insignificant and minor election for the mayor of Santee, California, a suburb of San Diego, will feature Rudy Reyes running for that seat, bravely contesting the re-election of the 12-year incumbent in Santee. Good luck, Rudy Reyes. Vote Rudy for Santee mayor. In Colorado, Gary Johnson is running for president on the Libertarian ticket, as he is nationwide, and according to San Francisco Weekly's blogs, he aims to be Obama's Nader. During his 2 terms as New Mexico governor, Gary Johnson was known best for 2 things: vetoing nearly half of the bills that reached his desk and advocating for the marijuana legalization. Now, as the Libertarian candidate for president and man of the hour for bereft marijuana-minded voters, Johnson is angling to become forever known as the Ralph Nader of 2012, the third-party spoiler who ruined Al Gore's chance at the White House. Republicans have to date appeared most fearful of Johnson. GOP operatives sued to keep him off the ballot in some states, and the media's run with the risk to Romney storyline. But in the swing state Colorado, Johnson's campaign is running robocalls that call out President Barack Obama for allowing his Justice Department to shut down state legal cannabis dispensaries. This is a move aimed at liberals and the youth, both of whom will vote on a marijuana legalization measure on Tuesday. Johnson's been on point across the country in speeches and in interviews, claiming a vote for Obama or Romney is a wasted vote. More liberal than Obama on civil liberties and more conservative than Romney on the budget, Johnson doesn't care who wins tomorrow. Either way, the American public will know how similar the 2 mainstream parties are, he says. ABC News asks, what happens if Washington legalizes pot? Washington state probably won't influence the 2012 presidential race, but voters there could still leave the next president in a haze. On Tuesday, Washington may very well become the first state to legalize the possession, cultivation, and commercial sale of marijuana, both Republicans and Democrats say, bringing the state into apparent conflict with federal law if voters approve Initiative 502, which would allow residents over 21, sorry for the typo in the story there, to buy pot from stores licensed and regulated by the state liquor board. If I-502 passes, it remains unclear how the president, whoever he is, will respond. The White House declined to comment to ABC News when asked whether President Obama would seek to overturn I-502 should it pass and should he remain in office. So did Obama's Office of National Drug Control Policy. Neither Obama nor Romney's presidential campaign responded to multiple emails seeking comment over the weekend. And from the law blog of the Wall Street Journal, also paying attention to marijuana election night 2012, on Tuesday, marijuana moves to center stage in 3 states. Some of the more intriguing initiatives on state ballots Tuesday involve marijuana. While 17 states and Washington, D.C. allow marijuana use for medical purposes, none have yet sanctioned use of pot for recreational use. But that could all change Tuesday when voters in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington will vote on measures that would allow residents to possess and use marijuana. Could this actually happen? According to the polling numbers, the answer is, well, maybe. And finally, Detroit's Proposal M on marijuana will be decided on November 6th. The city of Detroit will have a marijuana measure of decriminalization on the ballot titled Proposal M. This proposal would remove penalties for possession of 1 ounce of marijuana or less on private property for adults aged 21 and over. In addition to the Detroit votes, there will be votes in Ypsilanti, Grand Rapids, and Flint, Michigan on decriminalization and low priority measures. We'll bring them all to you on Marijuana Election Night 2012 tomorrow here at RadicalRuss.com. For Kerry Gallagher, I'm Russ Belville with the 420 Headline News. When we come back, we go behind the headlines and take a look at all 6 states voting on statewide marijuana legalization and the latest polls on their chances of success. This is the Russ Belville Show. We'll be right back after this. Is on the Oregon ballot this November. I'm just one of over 500,000 Oregon adults who use marijuana annually, and I'm asking you to vote yes on Measure 80. Measure 80 would finally end the futile prohibition of marijuana and institute regulations that treat marijuana like alcohol. Measure 80 would end the facade of police trying to determine who is sick or healthy enough to put in a cage over a plant. Measure 80 provides jobs and tax revenue that Oregon desperately needs and institutes the industrial hemp crop our legislators already legalized. Best of all, Measure 80 protects our children by imposing the same educational and ID carding requirements that have brought teen alcohol drinking and tobacco smoking to their lowest ever recorded levels. Marijuana smokers are your family, your coworkers, and your friends, and we are 1 out of every 7 Oregon adults who deserve the same respect as our friends who enjoy fine Oregon wines and craft beers. We may be the only Oregonians who want to pay more taxes. Please donate to Oregonians for Law Reform at OregonLawReform.com and help us help Oregon by passing Measure 80.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
Cause the day was hard and your work was long and you need a break from all that's wrong. You better look at the clock cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show.
All right, folks, time for us to go behind the headlines, and we're looking, of course, at the big headline tomorrow, Marijuana Election Night 2012, live right here at RadicalRuss.com, hashtag MJVote. And I thought it would be appropriate for us to take a look at the latest polls for marijuana legalization and medical marijuana and how they bode for marijuana election night. And it's beginning to look like we might get half of what we're going for. It looks like 2 of the 3 legalization states have good polling, and 1 of the 3 medical marijuana states have good polling. Let's break it down. Of course, Washington State, of the 3 states that are doing marijuana legalization, has enjoyed the greatest poll support throughout the campaign season, sometimes reaching as high as 57 or 58% support. The latest poll to come out just yesterday shows Washington's I-502 marijuana legalization is polling at 53% support to 44% opposed. So we are very excited about the possibilities of Washington State legalizing marijuana tomorrow on election night. It's very exciting. Of course, Washington's I-502 will legalize the possession of 1 ounce of usable cannabis, 12 or 16 ounces of cannabis prepared edibles, or 72 ounces of cannabis infused liquids. It would also create a system of state regulated and licensed marijuana growers, processors, and retailers with a 25% excise tax to be executed at each stage of the production chain. It would maintain a 5 nanogram, or create, a 5 nanogram per milliliter DUID per se statute that would say anybody above 5 nanograms is defined to be impaired. It would also mean anyone below 5 nanograms or anyone who has got marijuana metabolites would be below that limit and not subject to being considered impaired. It is the most controversial of the legalization measures within the marijuana legalization community. However, it must be underscored that all the major drug law reform organizations are behind Initiative 502, NORML, DPA, MPP, SAFER, MAPS, and so forth, SSDP, and so on. So this does enjoy widespread support from marijuana legalizers and beginning to look like majority support among the general public. Looking to Colorado's latest polling numbers for Amendment 64 are also looking good. The latest public policy polling coming in at 52% support versus 44% opposed for the Colorado measure. And again, since Colorado's in the Mountain Time Zone and their polls close at 6 o'clock Pacific Time, it may get the distinction of being the first locality, or the first state, I should say, to legalize the adult use of marijuana. Absolutely legal for people to possess marijuana. In Colorado, the limits are defined as 1 ounce of marijuana for personal possession, the ability to grow 3 plants of maturity, 3 mature plants, and have 3 seedlings at your home, and legal to possess the results of those harvests at your home, which does not come with a predefined limit. It would also institute a series of marijuana regulation that mimics very much what they're doing with medical marijuana in the state of Colorado. Again, the polling there is showing 52 to 44% at this point, and our own Kerry Gallagher will be there in Denver bringing you the latest results as they come in with Mason Tavert and Brian Vincente from the Amendment 64 campaign. Now, looking here to our own home state of Oregon, we're looking at the Measure 80 campaign, and right now, unfortunately, it is not looking good for Measure 80, as the latest poll to come out, an Elway Research poll, shows 42% support versus 49% opposition. Yes, I know it's some harrowing news here. However, there is good news to be found in this polling. Previous polls had shown the support for Measure 80 only at 36 or 37%. It has been growing in support. The growing opposition is something that is to be worried about. However, in the Elway poll, they are most likely, in the Elway poll, they are polling people by landlines, and most of the younger voters in the state of Oregon don't even have landlines anymore. So the polling may be skewed on this. I spoke with Calico Castile from Oregonians for Law Reform today, who told me that doing their sign waving, they got a lot of positive support from the people, the working people driving the freeways. So we'll have yet to see how that comes in. Sam and Calico will bring us the Measure 80 campaign coverage from Oregonians for Law Reform's party. Herb Thrasher and Ico will bring us coverage from the world-famous Cannabis Cafe for the Measure 80 party. Looking at medical marijuana, state of Massachusetts is looking the best of all the states with 63% support versus 29% opposition. It looks very likely that the state of Massachusetts will become the 18th state in the United States to legalize medical use of marijuana, following its 2008 vote on decriminalization of marijuana for adults. Unfortunately, things don't look as good in Arkansas, where issue 5 is trailing in the latest poll, 38% to 54% support. Yeah, unfortunately it looks, but to get this on the ballot in the South is still a major win for marijuana law reformers. The fact that they're just talking about medical marijuana in Arkansas is something that is a huge victory for our side. And finally, the referendum in Montana, IR 124, which would keep the current repeal light medical marijuana, the SB 423 bill that decimated their medical marijuana, looks like it is going to stay. We're looking to lose this one. We're only getting 54% against this bill, and we need this one to fail in order to get what we want, which is Montana's original medical marijuana law back the way it was. And that's your latest poll results from all of the marijuana legalization efforts happening statewide. Tune in to Marijuana Election Night 2012 tomorrow at RadicalRuss.com for all the latest results from the only poll that matters, your votes.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Did you know that 1 out of 7 Oregon adults will use marijuana this year? Did you know that only 1 out of 10 Oregon marijuana consumers are medical marijuana patients? That's over 500,000 Oregon adults participating in the marijuana market. And the state of Oregon sees not one dime of tax revenue or job growth from the uncounted millions spent on marijuana. Isn't it time we regulated the marijuana market, sell it in adults-only stores that check ID, and put the proceeds in the state general fund instead of some drug dealer's pocket? Vote yes on Measure 80.
Count your computer. Count your computer.
Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that.
All right, welcome back, folks. Time for our Roots Monday Daily Toker Tunes, and having some problems with the intro there, so I'm just going to have to give it to you like this. I got an email today from a record label. Once again, they've been the word's getting out that we're playing all this music on our Daily Toker Tunes, and we're getting more and more response from different record labels out there. And this latest one, very interesting to me, from a band called The Common Loon. Which I thought was very interesting. They're off of Oval Eye Records, and you can find more about Oval Eye Records at ovaleyerecords.com. They go all the way back to 1996 when two friends who were passionate about melodic, thoughtful music and meaningful creative lyrics created Oval Eye Records and a band they had called Acedia. Now, Acedia was their friends Christy, Jeremy, and Jesse, and they started writing songs and building their musical libraries. They recorded a couple of solo albums back in the days when you had to record them on 4-track recording tapes. So they have a lot of experience going back to those days. By the time the 21st century comes around, by 2003, they're working on a couple of new projects and moving to Chicago, where they're studying art and falling in love. On their next project, The Common Loon, that features Tara, Billy, and Jesse, who was the drummer from Acedia. This newest album, The Flight 2010, surpassed everything they thought it would be. They reached new levels of song and sound quality with timeless rock and roll tracks. Achingly honest lyrics and stories from the high desert plains of Wyoming, of all places. This album touches a wide spectrum of human emotion in the midst of personal growth, change, and survival. In 2012, The Common Loon is alive and well, writing new tracks and recording like nobody's business. The next album will feature Tara and Billy, the founders of Oval Eye Records, on their first complete collaboration together. It promises to be the most...
Long in the middle of America, but now I'm feeling blue. Summertime and I'm feeling just like I'm missing something new. Folks on the coast are coffee in your cup. Let's let the people choose. Legalize addictive cigarettes. We watch our sports with liquid arrogance. It's just so un-American to outlaw a miracle plan. Now choose, big brother, choose. Now choose, big brother, choose. Now choose, big brother, choose. Now choose, big brother.
Marijuana legalization. It's a topic everyone is talking about out west. Oregonians have always been pioneers in marijuana policy. We were the first to decriminalize personal possession in 1973 and one of the first to legalize medical marijuana use in 1998. Now it is time for Oregonians to take the lead again and become the first state to regulate marijuana like we do alcohol. We can do that by passing Measure 80 this election. Let's face it, demand for marijuana isn't going anywhere, and the longer we deny that, the more unscrupulous dealers take advantage of our medical law. With Measure 80, we will finally end abuses of medical marijuana by providing all consumers with a well-regulated, adults-only store where IDs are checked. The state reaps tax revenue, our economy gains new jobs, and our police can put their energies towards solving actual crimes. The feds may not like it, But since when do Oregonians let Washington, D.C. tell them how to run the state? 1 out of 7 Oregon adults uses marijuana, and they shouldn't be treated like criminals. Vote yes on Measure 80, and let's make marijuana work for Oregon.
Look, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Remember, Mr. President, you once were just one bust away from being Barry the drug criminal.
Life ain't a box of chocolates gum. That's why people smoke weed and take bumps and drink way too damn much and get drunk and do it all over again. First of the
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and it's time for our Listen to Your Mother segment. And in this segment, we team up with Moms for Marijuana, Normal Women's Alliance, and other women's groups that are focused on ending adult marijuana prohibition for our families, for our kids, and for our society. And joining us today, a good friend of the show and the woman for whom our automation software, the Libramator, is actually named for. It's our own Lively Libra, a.k.a. Lisa Calvin. How you doing today?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you. How you doing?
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'm really nervous. Doing your show makes me really nervous. It's been since December of 2010.
Wow. That's been way too long. We got to make sure that doesn't happen that long again.
All right.
So Lisa's the host of the Libra Lounge, which is a podcast out of the deep in the heart of Iowa. We won't say where, but how is the podcast going?
Well, we just did episode 77 last Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're booking along. We only took 1 week off. That was the week I was in Seattle for HempFest.
Yes. You came out to the Seattle HempFest, and as for someone who's in the Midwest right now, what's it like going out to Seattle and being around that?
Oh, it was just total freedom for the first time in my life. Words are really hard. It was so peaceful, and I actually, somebody caught a video of me, and I was stoking a bowl, and it showed up on a cable TV show.
Really? Yeah. Has it made its way out to Iowa yet? Is this causing any problems for you?
No. So far, we're secret.
Good. Glad to hear it. Now, you are a mom, and, we talk about this issue of marijuana prohibition and how it affects families and parents trying to deal with their kids and the trials and tribulations kids go through when they're growing up. How has marijuana prohibition affected your family?
Yeah, it's affected it in many ways, and most all of them are negative and make me feel guilt. So, I just... I guess I began when I was young, recreationally or whatnot. Didn't understand it, but other people drank, and I knew I preferred to toke. I didn't like to puke.
Yeah.
And so, fast forward to motherhood with my first baby. I guess I just talked to a lot of people, nurses included, who said it helps during pregnancy for morning sickness and throughout. And I didn't think about my usage at all. And well, in the hospital, during the intake, when I was in labor, the nurse asked if I had done any drugs, and I guess I was delirious, and I'm brutally honest, and I said, yeah, a little pot. So the next thing I know, the baby's drug tested, and THC shows up in his meconium.
The first infant poop.
Yeah, and I guess it shows up, all you mothers out there, from 5 months on in the meconium.
Mm-hmm.
Scientifically.
Yep.
So I didn't know this, and this was back in '92. So all I got at that time was a barrage of social services coming in, visiting nurses coming in to see if the baby was thriving, weighing him, looking at the home environment. They found nothing, had to close the case.
Yeah.
So that was really a secret. For a long time, I told no one, and it's really kind of hard to talk about now because my husband at the time didn't appreciate it at all.
Yeah.
And, he was one of those who preferred to drink, even though he was hip to the weed.
Yeah.
But he kind of switched up on me and then judged me, and we had a rough time and got divorced when the baby was 3. So anyway, that child is a National Merit Scholar, talented musician, thriving on the East Coast in Boston in a prestigious college.
So the marijuana smoking you had done throughout your pregnancy, we hear, and I won't say throughout, but occasionally in your pregnancy, did not seem to affect the outcome for this child.
No, not at all. Not in any negative ways.
How about the prohibition of marijuana? How did that affect this child?
Oh, well, see, there's the rub.
Yeah.
It's really not the plant itself and the properties that help people. It's this whole prohibition thing. And so he's 20, and this summer he's home from college, and he and a buddy decide to pull over in a church parking lot after a party and rip a bowl. And, they got busted red-handed. Sure. The police officer, saw them, flashlight in the, window and everything. So he's currently, I thank God for your show and your old connections with NORML, because I knew right away to call up a NORML lawyer. So $2,000 later for under a gram of weed, we're still fighting. He's got a trial coming up. The lawyer is pretty confident he can drop the possession charge and just reduce it to paraphernalia.
Right. Now, that would be, of course, we still have to worry about Higher Education Act. Is this affecting your child in college or anything?
Well, see, not at this point, because he's in Boston where they're, undergoing legalization efforts.
Right.
I don't know if they care or if this will ever come to light there. So I don't know. That's a good question, but we'll see. December 16th, cross your fingers.
Yeah. We'll definitely want to hear about how that goes. So you're in Iowa. You're in the middle of the state that, statistically speaking, year after year has some of the lowest reported ratio of pot smokers. Last time I checked, it was like 3.4% of Iowans reported to the government that they had used marijuana monthly. Is that true, or is it just Iowans being scared to say anything?
I think it's they're very scared. Yeah. Wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
I mean, this is really a war. And I know I could probably name 3% of Iowans who toke.
3% of Iowans toke, and only half of them are Libra's friends.
Exactly. No, I know people of all walks of life, all professions. And you just have to be very quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally understand. I come from another one of those I state. If you're in an I state, you have to watch what you're doing when you're smoking. I'm telling you.
Right.
This leads me into the big question, of course, is tomorrow's election night. And you guys in Iowa, I know, have to be waiting with bated breath as far as the election results out west. So as you have heard about, on the show and reading, and I'm sure looking around yourself, all this conflict and drama out in the West Coast states, even going back to Prop 19 over not true legalization. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's totally ridiculous. I think y'all are squabbling about nothing. I mean, the semantics of it. Come on. What we are talking about is cannabis users and believers who are voting against legalization, and I just can't believe it. It makes no sense to us. And we want y'all to stop it, and we want you to go on and pave the way for us. Because we're always a few years behind you with fashion and everything else. Couple years ahead with gay marriage, though, I have to say.
Yes. In Washington State, they're voting on a referendum to maintain their equal rights for all people to get married, regardless of what's between their legs. So
excellent.
So, and it's looking, the polls now are showing that is looking to pass, and it'd actually be the first state to pass gay marriage, so-called gay marriage. I hate that term, but
I know.
Would pass marriage equality rights through a popular vote. So in a sense, Washington owes you one.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to oust the remaining of the 4 judges who sat on the Supreme Court when they interpreted the Constitution, and that became law in Iowa. They ousted 3 of them, and the hate is here. It's so deep. I see vote no on the activist judges all the time, and I'm tired of people squabbling about our civil liberties and our choices.
Exactly. Now, you like we mentioned, you are in the state of Iowa, and one of the squabbles here in the Pacific Northwest in Washington is over the per se DUID statute, 9502. It's 5 nanograms of active THC in your blood, people. Active, not the metabolites that come out on your pee test at work, but the active THC. And I note here from the statutes that in the state of Iowa, since 1998, you guys have had 0 tolerance for blood and 0 tolerance even for urine, and a 48-hour mandatory minimum jail if you get caught. So how many times have you been pulled over and busted for DUI?
Well, luckily I'm a very safe driver, and I'm smart. I don't drive dirty.
There you go.
And I've never been pulled over.
Pulled over, period, not just impaired.
Right. Well, I'm usually impaired.
But never pulled over.
According to those standards, I mean, that's smoking, within the past few days.
About 5 nanograms. The Iowa standard? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, their studies, Karchner's study, as a matter of fact, they had 25 people that they tested that were all heavy marijuana smokers, smoked like at least 12 days out of 14. Some of them smoking a few blunts to an ounce a day. These people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
And when they tested them after 7 days, there was 11 or 12 of them that still showed some measurable THC. Now, none of it was above 5. It was still in the 0.4, 0.6 kind of level, but you could still test it. When you're talking 0 tolerance, then that's what you're talking about. But even with that, even with the 0 tolerance, even in a blood red Iowa, super uber conservative Iowa, you haven't yet even been pulled over.
No. Okay. And I've been a 30-year consumer.
Now, is this something that the pot smokers, the 3% of pot smokers that all of them, is this something that they fear? Is that something you guys freak out about, that, oh my God, I might get a pot DUI?
No, because unless you do something wrong and the police officer has probable cause to pull you over, you're pretty.
What about the burnt? You got a burnt tail light. The cop comes up, and you got long hair, and he thinks he smells weed. Then what?
Oh, well, I'm a teacher, and my kids get targeted all the time in a small town.
Yeah,
because they're not so smart.
Right. So what's getting them targeted?
Well, like you said, I mean, they dress in tie-dye, and they have hippie things all over their cars, and they travel in packs, and they're targeted. I mean, everybody knows it's. I don't know. Did you? Back to the. Did you hear that the University of Iowa is going to use their driving simulator to test the effects of marijuana on drivers?
No, that's new news to us. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the details, but they were talking about the criteria. I wanted to join, but I live too far from Iowa City.
Well, that will be great information to get out. So just to wrap things up here, Lisa, you're doing the podcast, the Libra Lounge. How can people download the podcast?
All right. You go to livelylibra.podomatic.com or just check it out on iTunes or go to our website, thelibralounge.com.
There you go. And it's a Sunday morning coffee talk. What kind of flavor of podcast for people that haven't heard it before?
Well, we're kind of raw, actually, for a couple of educators because we kind of try to tell it like it is. Mr. Libra is a history teacher, government, so he feels the stuff. So we talk politics and we try to put a slant on it. And we do talk cannabis quite a bit and have guests. We do a thing called the Libra's Couch where we interview our listeners, and it's fascinating.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. TheLibraLounge.com, correct?
Yes.
All right. Check it out. And Lively Libra, thank you for all your support for our show and everything you've done to help us out here. And thanks for being the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Thank you, Russ, for all you've done for us.
You betcha. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, time for some radical rant. We're going to talk about some of the reasons that Libra was alluding to, that pot smokers are voting against legalization, and why they're all nonsense.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
marijuana legalization is on the Oregon ballot this November. Measure 80 will institute regulations that treat marijuana like alcohol. Measure 80 will provide jobs and tax revenue we so desperately need. Measure 80 will protect children by moving the marijuana market to adults-only stores that check for ID. Measure 80 will free up police resources to focus on real crimes, not the 1 out of 7 adult Oregonians who responsibly consume marijuana. Vote yes on Measure 80 and donate to Oregonians for Law Reform today.
On the road again.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Friends, it's time we legalize the responsible use of marijuana and stop treating marijuana smokers like criminals. We're destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of good, hardworking Americans every year in this country for no good reason. There's absolutely nothing wrong with smoking pot. For more information on how you can help legalize marijuana, please contact Normal at norml.org.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
My fellow pot smokers, we are on the brink of victory. Tomorrow, voters in Washington, Oregon, and Colorado will make history. For the first time in America, 3 states will be deciding on whether to end the criminal prohibition of adult marijuana for personal use. In just one election after the defeat of California's Prop 19, marijuana may go from being a contraband worthy of imprisonment to a commodity sold legally in a state. 1, 2, or even 3 states, we go from being criminals to being consumers. And yet, there are people who smoke pot now who are actively fighting against these measures. These stoners against this legalization are trying to frighten and confuse us into voting for our own criminality. If they succeed, they will have handed the drug czar his greatest victory yet. The entire West Coast and Colorado voting against legalization in the span of 2 elections. So if you're still on the fence, my cannabis-consuming brothers and sisters, here are the top 5 reasons we've found from these pot smokers who will be voting with the drug czar, the prosecutors, the rehabs, the prison guards, and the cops who want to keep putting you in cages for smoking weed, and why they're nonsense. Scare number 1. You'll never be able to drive a car. You'll be an automatic DUID. This is a scare tactic in Washington state, where the legalization measure contains a controversial per se DUID provision. Basically, if a cop pulls you over and arrests you for a DUID, they will test your blood. If it's over a certain level, the judge tells the jury that that's proof enough of the fact that you were impaired behind the wheel. This is how alcohol DUIDs work. If you're arrested by a cop who thinks you're driving drunk, they make you blow in a breathalyzer, and if you're over the limit of 0.08 blood alcohol content, you're considered to be too drunk to drive. Where the controversy exists is that the level for active impairing THC in the blood is set to 5 nanograms per milliliter. Marijuana is not chemically like alcohol, so you can't really set a one-size-fits-all limit like alcohol that shows somebody was recently toking and is currently impaired. Now, some of us who toke deeply and often may be over the limit hours after we've consumed and may be quite unimpaired behind the wheel. Some occasional light tokers, though, might be too impaired to drive even when they're under the limit. Now, why is this scare wrong? Well, nothing about Washington's legalization measure changes DUIDs at the cop level. Anything cops do now to catch people driving stoned is what they will still do after legalization passes, which means they still need to have objective evidence of your impaired driving in order to arrest you and take your blood. If, indeed, you're quite unimpaired behind the wheel, what's leading that officer to believe you're driving impaired? Because driving with active impairing THC in your blood is against the law now. When those cases go to trial, any amount of THC in your blood can and usually does get you a DUID conviction. Now, let's be clear here that we're talking about active impairing THC in the blood, not the inactive metabolites of marijuana that show up in a urine workplace drug test days or even weeks after your last use. Some pot-smoking opponents of legalization have purposefully blurred that distinction to heighten the scare. For most tokers, 1 to 4 hours after you've consumed, you will be below the legal limit. Now, for the rest of us, well, how long you've been driving and how many times you've been arrested. That arrest risk does not increase after legalization passes. Scare number 2. This is not true legalization. This is just decriminalization on steroids. I find this to be an odd scare because what? We're against decriminalization now? But as it goes, the pot smokers making this claim are against Washington's legalization because it contains no provision to allow people to grow their own marijuana plants for personal use. Colorado's measure allows for cultivation of 3 plants, but there and in Washington, some tokers claim it's not true legalization because marijuana would still be in the state's Schedule I designation, or that limits of 1 ounce aren't true legalization because there aren't limits on how much legal beer one can possess and buy. Even here in Oregon, where legalization would allow unlimited personal possession and cultivation, a few cannabis consumers say it's not true legalization because the state would be taxing and regulating it. Now, why is this scare wrong? Because these are word games. Decriminalization, as everyone but these people seem to understand it, means removal of criminal penalties in favor of civil punishments. Oregon and Colorado are decriminalized, but getting caught with a personal amount of weed still means a hefty fine and civil sanctions, like losing your driver's license. And it's still illegal, which means its possession is the probable cause needed by police to harass you further. Legalization means legal. No ticket, no fine, no record, no arrest, no punishment, no sanction, and most importantly, no probable cause. Now, it may not be as legal as you'd like, but all 3 of these measures are certainly legalization. Legal drugs is a spectrum that ranges from tightly controlled hospital morphine to pharmacy-prescribed Viagra to over-the-counter aspirin. As long as you're following the regulations, these drugs are legal, just as marijuana will be. Scare number 3. With all these taxes, marijuana is going to cost $600 an ounce. Well, what's very strange about this scare tactic is that the people who employ it will then tell you that the legalization measure won't do anything to hurt the black market because it will just undercut the highly taxed legal marijuana market. So apparently, when people are trying to sell weed, market forces will make them adjust their prices. So why does this not also affect the legal taxed marijuana market? If the black market is so successful in undercutting the state, why wouldn't the state respond by lowering prices in order to compete? The state's motivation in taxing weed is to raise revenue. If that revenue doesn't materialize, the state will adjust. Why is this scare wrong? Are you going to buy a $600 legal ounce when you're getting it now for $200 to $300? These scares are all based on the marijuana growers, beginning with the prices they charge now at the wholesale level, based on the risk of prohibition, and then calculating the taxes from that point on. When it's legal, you start at the production cost level, not the prohibition risk level, and the prices of marijuana drop up to 50% at the retail level. Anybody who tells you that the price of marijuana will be negatively affected by marijuana legalization is somebody who will see a negative effect in their wallet when the prohibition tax is eliminated. Scare number 4. This is just a conspiracy to control pot smokers and the marijuana market. Well, this rant about terrified pot smokers wouldn't be complete without some conspiracy theory, would it? From, this is a conspiracy to catch us all for DUIs, to, this is a conspiracy to give away the marijuana market to Big Pharma and Big Tobacco. Yeah, I've heard them all. These scares always ignore the fact that a conspiracy exists right now to catch us all for having marijuana, and it gives away the marijuana market to murderous Mexicans. Why is this scare wrong? These conspiracy theories presume that DUI lawyers in the state are waiting to make a mint on DUI arrests when more lawyers make money on drug cases and the state makes more money from marijuana fines and asset forfeiture. They presume big corporations would take over when, as long as marijuana is federally illegal and they do business interstate, they'll fear for a federal indictment and asset seizure for involvement in Schedule I drug crime. And finally, scare number 5. This will set a terrible precedent. We can do better next time. This is a tactic that's often put forth by other marijuana activists who are working with groups that have failed repeatedly to get their version of true legalization on the ballot. If this legalization passes, they'll warn you, then the other states that take up legalization initiatives will follow with the same set of terrible regulations. Oh no! We'll have discovered a blueprint to get a majority to support marijuana legalization. How awful. This scare tactic is heard most often in Washington state, where they fear that the per se DUID provision will become a part of every future legalization. But that's only possible if Washington's is the only one to pass. If more than one passes, then there are multiple precedents to choose from. The only way Washington can be the precedent if it is the only one to pass, and wouldn't that sort of prove the point that the per se DUID provision was necessary to pass legalization? Now, why is this scare wrong? There will be no better next time. There have been 8 attempts in 42 years to legalize marijuana in a state. Every attempt has failed, and each successive attempt in a state has gotten more conservative. The pot-smoking opponents of Washington's legalization claim they can make the ballot in 2013 or 2014 with a measure that would completely abolish all marijuana laws. This will not attract any major donors, and it's hard to imagine a public that would have voted down this conservative marijuana legalization with I-502 would then in a year or two support the most liberal legalization, especially in a non-presidential election year. The next time, if there is one, is going to be in 2016, and the people with the big money to support legalization will not want to put out millions again for a losing effort. They will make the next measure even more restrictive in hopes of winning more reluctant voters. So folks, if you are a marijuana smoker out there, understand how politics work. You have to establish a beachhead. You have to establish a toehold in legality before you can move further into true freedom. Right now, when we are fighting for our rights, we are fighting as criminals. We are currently criminals, and so many of us cannot fight this battle because they lose their voting rights because of their criminality. We must become legal first. We must become legal, and then we can change anything that we need to change. In Washington state, I-502 can be amended with a 2/3 vote of the legislature. It can be amended by another initiative of the people. And after 2 years, it can be amended through the regular process of legislation. If it turns out to be so bad, it can be fixed. But then it will be being fixed by legal consumers with a legal right to have a legal product, not by criminals that the opposition can demonize as just druggies trying to get high. This is the most important marijuana vote of your lifetime. And a year from now, after marijuana's been legal and people have been enjoying the freedom that has been afforded by this legalization, you will hate yourself for the vote that you made. And you will hate yourself for what you could have sacrificed in this legality. Anybody who tells you that bad things will happen when marijuana is legalized is wrong, whether they smoke pot or not. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us for Brian the Red and Cannabis Carry. We'll be back tomorrow with Marijuana Election Night 2012 right here at RadicalRuss.com, 4 p.m. Pacific till the lights go out, man. We're going to get you all the election results live from the campaign headquarters where they're happening. So until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!